Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is my friend Alan Collinge, and Alan and I have been talking several times about the presidential race, but I want to talk about the vice presidential debate and how nothing was said about student loans. So, Alan, what's your view?
I've been saying this. I've known it for actually the past 2 years, quite frankly. Both parties have abandoned us. The Democrats' rhetoric sounds really good. We're going to try, we're going to cancel every nickel of loans that we possibly can, and but it's just insincere, and that came out in the debate. The second presidential debate, or first presidential debate, Donald Trump mentioned it 7 times, but he never came to a cogent point that he was trying to make, except for to say that the Democrats screwed up the loan cancellation that they tried. And there's a longer story behind that. But so it was mentioned, but it never was really discussed. In the vice presidential debate, not even was it mentioned. And I have to say, both parties, they ignore 40 million distressed student loan borrowers. That's 40 out of 43 million federal borrowers. Over 40, actually, probably closer to 45 million out of 55 total student loan borrowers are distressed on their loans. They're underwater on their loans. This is top of mind issue for them. And the party that says something, hopeful for these people, I really think they're going to win the election. We're the largest politically untethered voting bloc in modern American history. Um, and the Democrats have the advantage here because they did, at least on paper, try to cancel. The Republicans just keep opposing them viciously and wagging their fingers at student loan borrowers. But I think there's a very real danger here from what we've seen from Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz. There's a very big danger here that they're going to just lose credibility. They never had credibility with me. The Democrats didn't. I've seen behind the scenes what the Democrats have done with student loans over the past couple of years, and I'm telling you, they have abandoned and betrayed us. Kamala Harris, the people who launched her career, almost single-handedly killed student loan cancellation by executive order. If you Google this, the Swig family, SWIG, and Kamala Harris, you'll see this family, wealthy real estate family in San Francisco. I've spoken about them before. They stepped in and interjected into the student loan cancellation issue, and they got Nancy Pelosi to oppose it, Susan Rice, probably Kamala Harris, although she didn't say anything publicly. But the Supreme Court, when they ruled against Joe Biden's student loan cancellation, they quoted Nancy Pelosi verbatim. And Nancy Pelosi was quoting the Swig family, the same Swig family who launched Kamala Harris's career. So the fix is in. Things are not good for student loan borrowers. The rhetoric's different. But, the fact that it wasn't mentioned in the vice presidential debate really shows that they have no true intentions of doing anything meaningful on student loans. And so,
So, you were not surprised, were you?
no. In fact,
Okay.
I'm running for president, by the way, as a
Right.
write-in candidate, as we've discussed. The reason I'm running is because I know the Democrats betrayed us. They think, well, the Republicans are just so vicious and evil on this issue. We don't have to do anything. And all the student loan borrowers, their votes will just fall in our lap. And that may be true, but at this point, Cynthia's watching everything that's going on. It seems to me that a lot of distressed student loan borrowers may very well just not vote. Or
Vote
obviously
for
they
you.
should vote for me, but realistically, they may very well just stay home and not even bother voting. There's a lot of disappointment out there in the world right now. Student loan borrowers are being crushed with loan payments turned back on and the so-called on-ramp to repayment where the collection companies were held at bay for a while. That's done. So people are being just wrecked by these loans, and they are disconsolate, and I think we're going to see a lot of real human tragedies in this country in the weeks and months to come. But
Yes.
I think another one symptom of that is giving up on the federal electoral, the whole thing, giving up on the presidential race, giving up on both parties. Um,
So, you have mentioned a number of times that the majority of people with student loans are not paying them back.
that's right. By my best estimate is that today, 85.5% of all student loan borrowers are not making payments on their loans today. So, and even if you take out the people who are in school, and they probably, you wouldn't expect them to pay, still 82%. So over 80% of all student loan borrowers are not paying on their loans.
Mhm.
I mean, what do you even call that? This never happened before in American lending history, to my knowledge.
Right.
Even the subprime home mortgage thing, the default rate for subprime home mortgages was only, in quotes, about 20, 22, 23%. The default rate for student loans is going to be well over 50%. In fact, it may be well over 50% today as we speak. We don't know yet, but certainly 6, 8, 9 months from now, it will be well over 50%. My best guess is it'll probably be closer to 60, 65%. And again, the people who are paying, the 15% of people who are paying, a lot of those people are also underwater. They're paying and paying, but their loan balance is going up. So we're only talking about maybe 5 or 6 or 7% of people with student loans are successfully paying down their student loans. I don't even know what you call that. It's failed beyond any lending system that's ever failed in this country before. Way beyond subprimes, way beyond the S&L loans of the 80s. There's literally nothing to compare it to.
And with over 40 million people, you think that they would address the issue or bring it out in a debate, right? Talk about it in a debate.
I feel like I'm living in the twilight zone here, Cynthia. Um, and I don't want to compete against other issues, but like just for example, the Israel Palestine issue, right? There are around 11 million people who are either Jewish or Muslim in the United States. 11 million people combined. Um, there are 4 times more that distressed student loan borrowers. Yet, if you turn on the news, all you see is Israel and Gaza, and that's I don't mean to belittle that issue. I'm just saying, um, the both parties have maybe they've agreed sort of a gentleman's behind the scenes handshake. Maybe they've agreed to just ignore this issue. I don't know. It's the height of political arrogance and or stupidity.
Mhm. So, do you think do you think that this might be a decisive issue in the election?
Um, you know, I think it certainly could and should, and well, it will be, but it's it's just confusing because neither party has really made it into any kind of an issue. People are left to their own devices, and they, as long as it's kind of like a game of chicken between the two parties. Like tomorrow, Donald Trump could hold a press conference and say, if I become president, I will return bankruptcy protections to student loans. That's the rational middle ground. Republicans aren't going to do loan cancellation. If Donald Trump was going to do that in a trustworthy way tomorrow, I think there's no doubt in my mind he would win the election. There's no doubt because people are so fed up with the Democrats in the first place. Having the leverage of bankruptcy returned to these loans would mean everything to people. On the other hand, if Joe Biden tomorrow were to say, all right, I've thought about it and I hereby am signing this thing, I am now canceling loans today, right now, no bureaucratic nonsense, no fake legal hurdles to throw up. I'm telling the secretary to do it. The secretary is going to do it. Um, then I think those people would flock to the Democrats. Um, but as long as neither party puts anything out there, we're just going to be sitting here watching, waiting, and worrying. And ultimately, I mean, on balance, I think most of the votes uh, will go to the Democrats just because the rhetoric from them is better. But um, it's
If
just
they're not saying it, how could you say it's better?
well, I mean, the average student loan borrower who's been, reading the paper every once in a while, following the news a little bit, all they've seen is, well, Biden tried to do some lame cancellation, but the Republicans blocked it. The Republicans blocked it. Republicans blocked it. Republicans blocked it again. Republicans blocked it again.
Hmm?
So it's like, well, I know for a fact I can't vote for the Republicans because they're just evil. That's what's going through the average distressed student loan borrower's mind.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, they're like, but I was looking at that $10,000 loan cancellation. That's just ridiculous. The average borrower owes like $40,000, and the distressed borrowers owe far more than that. We have people who maybe borrowed $25,000. They've repaid, 50, 75, even $100,000 on a $25,000 loan, and they still owe over $100,000 on their debt. I mean, that's towards the radical edge of our most distressed. But for most distressed borrowers, $10,000 write-off like Biden was proposing, it's just not it's just not very impressive in the first place.
Mm.
So you know, it's just it baffles me that both parties apparently are willing to forgo winning the election by doing something real and meaningful on student loans. In other words, both parties apparently are willing to lose everything to keep this failed by all rational metrics, unconstitutional, predatory disaster of a loan scam going. It's like, what is so important about this broken lending program that you're willing to lose everything to keep it alive? Makes zero sense to me, Cynthia.
Now, Jill Stein is running, and Jill Stein in the past has talked about student loans. Is she talking about it this year?
She is. I haven't heard her make it. I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to Jill this year, quite frankly, because I'm running my own campaign. But yeah, no, certainly the Green Party, and much credit to them, they still have cancellation of student loan debt in their party platform. Um, I think the problem with the Green Party is that they are and have been so fringe left for so many years. People may agree with them on student loans and really need that to happen. But I think just because they are so fringe far left in one direction, people know that there's no chance that they can win, and they view it as throwing their vote away.
Mm.
Um, I would like to say that I'm electable because my platform is balanced, and it is. I think both Republicans and Democrats can really get behind my agenda. If the Green Party was to become, a far more balanced party, uh, maybe they could do something. But I think they're sort of stuck in a niche that maybe can never break the back of the uniparty. I don't know.
Uniparty. How long have you called it the Uniparty?
I think probably since the word was invented, at least
Okay.
5 to 10 years or something like that. And it really is, Cynthia. And I'm sure it's not just the student loan issue. Um, both parties talk a good talk on either side of one issue or the other,
Hmm?
but there are certain maybe called third rail issues or something that are just untouchable, and that is the uniparty. We see it again and again on almost every issue, on defense spending, um, on, quite frankly, even on immigration. While there's a lot of debate back and forth on both sides, the fact of the matter is the Chamber of Commerce, many wealthy interests, Republican interests, they love immigration. They love the cheap labor. And so, they may quibble around the edges about some things, but Um, but yeah, no, the Union Party is a very real thing. The entrenched interests in Washington, D.C., um, they love the status quo because the wealthy interests in this country have never been in a better position ever in terms of their taxes, in terms of their, the growth of their wealth. Did you know that just in the past year, over this year, since 1 year ago today, um, the wealth of the top 1% in this country has grown by $4.4 trillion. Like, that's enough to pay off, not that they need to be paid off, they can be canceled for free. That's enough to pay off all student loans like 3 times over. Um, it's just astonishing. And, Biden supposedly, this is a good example. Biden's tax plan to tax the rich and make them pay their fair share is a tax plan that gets $500 billion, a half $0.5 trillion from the wealthiest 1% over 10 years. Well, here we have the wealthiest 1% just grew their wealth by $4.4 trillion in 1 year. So Biden, I should say Kamala Harris now, the Democrats' tax plan for making the rich pay their fair share is just a sad, sad, sad joke.
So,
We need to go back to post-World War II tax levels, like confiscatory tax levels for the very uber rich in this country. After World War II, we went to a 90% tax rate for the wealthiest. I think we need to go back to that. And, we did it for 18 years after 1945. And I think we need to do that again, quite frankly.
so the debate happened last week, the week before.
All the
So,
days are running into each other now, Cynthia. I'm not sure if it was last week or the week before.
okay. So whenever it was, prior to the debate, did Vance ever talk about the student loan debt crisis?
I have never heard JD Vance say anything about student loans.
What about Walls?
I've never heard him say anything. I haven't really looked at Tim Walz very carefully. I haven't heard him say anything one way or the other. I
Mhm.
would assume he would be towing the Democratic line, saying, "Yeah, we want to cancel loans, but maybe we want to do it through Congress." Is like the subtext. And
Right.
canceling student loans through Congress is ridiculous, by the way. So I haven't heard Tim or JD say anything. But so many conservatives out there. Trump's federal student aid chief, Wayne Johnson, Republican, obviously, he was calling for student loan cancellation and the return of bankruptcy rights to the loans, just like our group has been doing since 2017. Um, Tucker Carlson has similarly echoed those sentiments. Many conservatives out there, including in Congress, people like Matt Gaetz and John Cornyn in Texas, Josh Hawley in Missouri, they're all calling for the return of bankruptcy rights to the loans. Glenn Grothman in Wisconsin, many members of Congress. But here in this presidential race, it seems to be an agreed third rail issue where both parties have, by some sort of a consensus or agreement, apparently agreed not to put this issue in play. And it's just astounding to me.
So you're the man of the hour. So you're running for president as a write-in. So give us the particulars and let people know how they can contact you and follow you and your group.
Sure. Well, on day one, I suspend the federal student loan program. On day one, I issue an executive order ordering the Secretary of Education to cancel every nickel of federally owned student loan debt. I then task Congress to replace the federal student loan program with something that's more rational. And they're going to do what they do. I give them one strong condition, is that if they decide to do student loans again, those loans will have every standard consumer protection that every other loan in this country has: bankruptcy rights, statutes of limitations, truth in lending laws, fair debt collection practices. So that's what people can expect from day one of my presidency. I would urge everybody, tell everyone you know with student loans about my campaign. It's a write-in campaign, so you have to bring your pen to the polls, or I know a lot of people are doing at-home voting. You have to write me in, Alan Collinge. My name is spelled that way. You have to spell it correctly, and we'll see what we can do. Go to collingeforpresident.com and just help us out in any way you can. Word of mouth is by far the most important thing.
So there's less than 4 weeks to go. It's interesting.
It is interesting in a way. A car crash or maybe a train wreck is interesting, Cynthia. I mean, how ugly can it get? Like, how far can we push this vote for the candidate you hate the least dynamic? Like, I just, I'm gonna
That's
need,
that's
I'm gonna
pretty
need to,
bad.
I'm gonna need to take a shower on November 6th. I'll tell you that.
God. Okay. So I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. And my guest today has been Alan Collinge. If you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Alan, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you, Cynthia.